From stories across the globe to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. A very good evening to you. I'm Sharifa Tahir.
A very good evening indeed, and I'm Kasun Segera. First, we take a look at the headlines of today. 2 television channels dedicated for education for the first time in the country. Government decides to repatriate 33 Sri Lankan nationals stranded in foreign airports. Many steps to expedite the distribution of rice stocks without a shortage. A letter of response from the Secretary to the President to the Election Commission Chair over the parliamentary election. The final rites of the 7th deceased COVID-19 patient in the country was observed. 2,700 million rupees worth revenue at the Colombo tea auction.
We move on to those and other stories in detail now. Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, has informed the Election Commissioner that the Commission is obliged to specify another day to conduct the polls in the relevant issued gazette if the parliamentary poll could not take place on the 25th of April. Directing a letter, he has mentioned that the right of the people to exercise their franchise is their sovereign right. Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, has sent a letter to the Chairman of the Election Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, in response to the letter sent by the Chairman of Election Commission under the title Parliamentary Election 2020 and date of summoning of the new Parliament dated March 31st and April 1st. I quote, "I am surprised that letters which have been sent for the attention of His Excellency the President by the Election Commission in respect of the official functions of the President of Republic have been released to the press prior to the receipt of the letters by this office, and that the same have also been copied to several others. It is relevant to set out in brief the following facts. By proclamation made by Gazette number 2165/8, dated 2/3/2020, Parliament was dissolved with effect from midnight of March 2nd, 2020, and the new Parliament was summoned to meet on May 14th, 2020. By the said proclamation, the date of election of the members of the new Parliament was fixed for April 25th, 2020. Thereafter, the secretaries of several political parties gave their intent to contest the election. In terms of Section 15 of the Parliamentary Elections Act, several recognized political parties and independent groups submitted nomination papers setting out the names of the candidates seeking election to Parliament. The written consent of such candidates was also given. Deposits have been duly made in terms of Section 16 and 17 of the Parliamentary Elections Act. In the circumstances, several independent candidates and several recognized political parties have accepted and acted in accordance with the order dissolving Parliament, the order fixing the date of poll, the date on which nomination papers be received, and the nominations have been submitted to respective returning officers. The Election Commission was obliged under Section 24 of the Parliamentary Elections Act to publish a notice in the Gazette specifying the matters referred to in sub-paragraphs A to D of Section 24(1). It appears that the Gazette number 2167/12, dated March 20th, 2020, notice was published specifying only the matters set out in A and C of Section 24(1), that is, a poll will be taken place between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. on 25th April 2020 in each electoral district and the electoral districts in which the election is contested. Thereafter, a Gazette number 2167/19, dated March 21st, 2020, has been issued by the Election Commission, wherein the Commission has stated that the poll cannot take place on 25th April 2020, and the Commission will appoint a day coming after 14 days from April 30th, 2020 as the day of taking of the poll. Regrettably, it is necessary to point out that in terms of Section 24(3), the Commissioner is obliged to specify another day for taking such poll in the Gazette issued under Section 24(3) if the poll could not take place on 25th April 2020. Furthermore, the day for taking such poll has to be 14 days after the day on which the date of the Gazette published under Section 24(3) of the Parliamentary Elections Act. As per the advice by His Excellency, it is not possible at this point of time to state that the election cannot be held on or before April 28, 2020. The date for fixing the poll is the responsibility of the Election Commission, and His Excellency has no wish to interfere with duties and obligations of the Election Commission. I may point out that in terms of Section 24(3) of the Parliamentary Elections Act, the time period giving notice of adjourned poll is not less than 14 days, which implies that poll which was postponed could be held even on the 15th day. I need to hardly emphasize that it is the right of the people of this country to exercise their franchise, which is a sovereign right. In the total circumstances set out herein before, I am instructed to inform the Election Commission that the question of reference to the Supreme Court in terms of Article 129 of the Constitution does not arise. Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara. Court ends.
Meanwhile, a total of 49 completely recovered COVID-19 patients have been discharged from the hospitals thus far. Meanwhile, the final rites of the 7th deceased COVID-19 patient was held at the Kotikavatta crematorium today. The final rites was carried out with the medication of the Specialist Judicial Medical Officer, Divisional Health Medical Officer and Public Health Officers. The final rites of the deceased patient was carried out in line with the international quarantine processes. The deceased patient has been identified as a 44-year-old male who has received treatment at the Infectious Disease Hospital. He was a gem businessman in profession and a resident of Mount Lavinia area. He had recently travelled to Germany and returned to the country. He was instructed to be admitted to the Infectious Disease Hospital after another person who had travelled with him to Germany on March 13th was identified as a COVID-19 infected. However, he rejected those instructions and consulted the family physician. The Director General of the Health Services made these remarks in a media briefing held on the 16th of March. Dr. Anil Jasingh said that family physician has instructed him to admit to IDH. Subsequently, he had visited the National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases. Dr. Jasingh said that the deceased person has visited a private hospital for the PCR test. He said that the deceased patient had admitted to the Colombo South Hospital. He further said that the chief epidemiologist of the health minister has instructed the director of the Colombo South Hospital to transfer the patient to IDH. The total deaths of the country has escalated to 7 following yesterday's death. Meanwhile, 190 confirmed cases have been reported from the country thus far. Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasingh said that a COVID-19 patient was detected from Beruwal area. He said that the patient's husband had previously toured to Indonesia. Accordingly, he said that many in the country have been exposed to the disease after participating in the tour of Indonesia. He added that several institutions have been declared to carry out the PCR test, including Apeksha Hospital, KDU Hospital, Ratnapur Hospital and IDH. Minister Pavitra Wanyarachi said that 80 patients out of the 189 confirmed cases in the country have been identified as returnees from foreign countries. She said that 106 patients have been identified as close associates of the returnees. She said that the persons affiliated with the travellers could be identified with the 30-day period imposed between March 19th to April 19th.
මාර්තු මාසේ 19 වෙනිදා සිට අප්‍රේල් මාසේ 19 වෙනිදා දක්වා කාලය දවස් 30යි. මේ දවස් 30 ඇතුළත මේ රටේ සංචරණය සීමා වී තිබෙන නිසා පිටරට සිට පැමිණි පුද්ගලයන්ගේ ආශ්‍රිතයන් රෝගීන් බවට පත් වුණොත් අප දන්නවා දවස් 30ක් ඇතුළත අනිවාර්යෙන්ම මේ රෝගීන් අපට සොයා ගන්නට පුළුවන් වෙනවා. රජය ලබා දෙන උපදෙස් අනුව ඔබ සංචරණය සීමා කරලා ලබන අප්‍රේල් 19 වෙනිදා දක්වා ඒ සහයෝගය ලබා දුන්නොත් ලංකාවේ සිටින සියලුම රෝගීන් හඳුනා ගැනීමටත් ඒ වගේම ලංකාවේ සිටින කවුරු හරි රෝගී වුණා නම් ඔහු සුව වෙන්නත් අප්‍රේල් 19 වෙනිදා දක්වා වෙනකොට කාලය ප්‍රමාණවත්.
In addition to the 49 recovered patients, 134 active COVID-19 patients are currently receiving treatments in the hospitals. They are receiving treatments in IDH Angoda, Valikanda Base Hospital, Colombo East Hospital in Mullaeriyawa. Another 242 people are under observations at present. Steps have been taken to obtain 51 PCR examination equipments in the universities in the country to carry out relevant examinations to detect COVID-19 infected persons. A discussion was held at the ministry premises on the functions of these equipments. A discussion was held under the patronage of Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena and Pavitra Wanyarachi. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that they have 51 PCR equipments to detect COVID-19 patients. He said that in the cabinet meeting, the President has instructed to exchange physical assets between the two ministries. Accordingly, he said that the patient detecting process will be further strengthened after the exchange of assets.
In the meantime, steps have been taken by the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation to telecast a special series of educational program using channels I and Netra. This will be initiated from April 20th, and this is the first time in the country that 2 television channels have been dedicated for education. This has been initiated in accordance to a concept of the President as the children of the country have been affected from the spread of COVID-19. The relevant cabinet paper was presented by Minister Dallas Alahaperuma. The cabinet of ministers, including Minister Bandula Gunawardena, extended the approval for the proposal. Accordingly, a special series of educational programs are scheduled to be telecast for school and university students, as well as those following vocational courses from the 20th of this month. The National Education Institute will prepare the necessary courses. Signing of the agreement was held under the patronage of Ministers Bandula Gunawardena and Dallas Alahaperuma at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation yesterday. Secretary to the Ministry of Information and Media, Chulananda Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, NHM Chitrananda, Secretary to the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Anura Disanayaka, Secretary to the Ministry of Skills Development, Employment and Labour Relations, DMS Abe Gunawardena, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, Dr. Nihal Jayathilaka, and Director General Ajit Naragala have also signed the agreement.
යලි බලගන්වන ඒ සියලු දෙනාට යලි ශක්තිය ලබා දෙන දඩක් බවට මේ රූප තිරය පත් කර ගැනීමේ උවමනාවයි අපි මේ දකින්නේ.
Minister Dallas Alahaperuma said that the President, Prime Minister, Minister Bandula Gunawardena and the Cabinet of Ministers welcomed the proposal presented by him over this matter on the 1st of April. He said that the confirmation by the Cabinet of Ministers for this proposal was taken within a week without causing any delays to implement the program. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the agreement would not have been signed if the Cabinet of Ministers failed to reach a decision on this regard. He said that the government would bear all costs of this initiative for the betterment of the future generations of the country. Therefore, for the first time in history, 2 channels of the national television will be completely dedicated for the children of the country.
ක්‍රියාත්මක තීන්දුව අරගෙන ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙච්ච ව්‍යාපෘතිය විදියට මේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය ඉතිහාසගත වෙනවා.
එවැනි දේශපාලන තීන්දුවක් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩල තීන්දුවක්
Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the agreement would not have been signed if the Cabinet of Ministers failed to reach a decision on this regard. He said that the government would bear all costs of this initiative for the betterment of the future generations of the country. Therefore, for the first time in history, 2 channels of the national television will be completely dedicated for the children of the country.
අධ්‍යාපනය සඳහාමයි. එනිසා 20 වෙනි දින සිට ලංකා ඉතිහාසයේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට ජාතික රූපවාහිනිය යටතේ තිබෙන නාලිකා 2ක් සිංහල දෙමළ මාධ්‍ය දරුවන්ගේ උදේ සිට රාත්‍රී වන තෙක්ම මුළු ගුවන් කාලයේම
According to the agreement, 80% of the airtime on channels I and Netra will be allocated for the educational programs. 60% will be allocated for general educational curriculum, and the rest of the 20% will be allocated for higher education and vocational education. All relevant programs will be telecast with the consent of the National Education Institute, University Grants Commission, and Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
Meanwhile, the meeting between President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and medical experts representing various fields was held at the Presidential Secretariat today with the aim of obtaining much-needed expert medical opinion on how to prevent the spread of coronavirus in the country promptly. During this meeting, the steps that have been taken by the government, security forces and the health sector officials to prevent the spread of coronavirus, as well as the steps that should be taken in the future, were discussed at length. The specialist pointed out the importance of conducting investigations on groups that were in close contact with the infected persons and who have contacts with the two stages further. Even though there are sufficient coronavirus test kits available at present, President Rajapaksa instructed the health authorities to take necessary steps to acquire more test kits in order to face any situation. The group of specialist doctors commended the President's quarantine program launched with the aim of preventing the spread of virus. Doctors said that further strengthening of this existing quarantine process is the most effective approach to prevent the spread of the virus. The experts stressed the importance of protecting areas where virus have not been spreaded into. They were rather of the view that the spread of the virus to those areas as a result of travelling by people from affected areas should be definitely stopped. The doctors said that the first step is to ensure that everyone stays at home to the extent possible following the Panchayuta system. The Panchayuta approach includes the use of face masks when leaving the house, avoid touching the face, maintaining a distance of 1 meter at all times, and hand washing. Experts, universities, technology institutions, individual groups have made a number of discoveries regarding COVID-19. It was also discussed promptly to conduct researches into these findings at professional level. The President inquired about the persons who run the risk of being infected with coronavirus speedily and what measures should be taken to protect these vulnerable groups. Doctors stated that the people with diabetes, asthma, heart diseases need to be vigilant and they should be taken to medication as prescribed by the physicians. They also emphasized the importance of abstaining from smoking. The expert team also pointed out the importance of drinking liquids to maintain the throat's moisture. Secretary to the President Dr. P. Vijayasurdhana, Chief Advisor to the President Mr. Lalit Veeratunga and Secretary Defence Major General Retired Kamal Gunratna were present at this meeting.
Moving on with more stories, the European Union said it will provide a €22 million grant to support Sri Lanka's COVID-19 response. Sri Lanka's very low number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 so far is impressive. To support Sri Lankan efforts further, the European Union is targeting 3 sectors, which is health, agriculture and tourism. For health, the EU will be providing €2 million for equipment and medical supplies to be procured by the World Health Organization and to strengthen laboratory networks in the country. Sri Lanka's agricultural sector will benefit from €16.5 million funding. In these trying times, maintaining open trade and safeguarding the supply chains, especially agricultural and health supply chains, is essential to the well-being of the population. Finally, the European Union will support the Sri Lankan tourism industry with a €3.5 million grant, in particular the smaller operators and their employees. The United States government, through the United States Agency for International Development, has committed $1.3 million to help protect healthcare workers and slow the spread of the virus with infection prevention and control support, the U.S. Embassy in Colombo said. U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Lena B. Tepulate, said, though even the most difficult times, Americans and Sri Lankans support one another as partners and friends. Funding will provide Sri Lanka support to activate case finding and event-based surveillance, technical experts for response and preparedness, risk communication, infection prevention and control, and more.
Meanwhile, the government has permitted to open mainstream paddy mills continuously to provide rice for the public without a shortage. Accordingly, activities related to paddy mills will be considered as an essential service. This was revealed at a meeting of the parliamentarians of the governing party held at the Temple Trees yesterday. The meeting was held under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. It was stated that a shortage of rice in the country would not occur under any circumstances as sufficient quantities of paddy have been stored for public consumption. The government has composed for the public the necessary measures to continue the supply of rice to the markets without any shortages during the emergency situations. The President and the Prime Minister directed a special attention over the issues pertaining to fisheries industry. Accordingly, the Prime Minister instructed the Secretary to the Finance Ministry to resolve the issues pertaining to the industry after conducting discussions with the Fisheries Corporation. Measures on the distribution of essential food rations and medicines and the distribution of essential commodities for persons who are unable to return to their village due to the curfew were also discussed at the meeting.
Continuing with more stories here at home, Cabinet Ministers have granted the approval to repatriate 33 Sri Lankan nationals who have been stranded in several international airports. Meanwhile, the Gazette notification consists of the procedure to avoid the further depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee set to be issued today. These remarks were made during the media briefing held to announce the Cabinet decisions today at the Government Information Department. Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the depreciation of the rupees was mainly caused by the major economic downfall occurred in the entire world. He said that under such circumstances, any country is unable to control the foreign exchange rate. He said that the government has taken several processes to control the depreciation of the rupee. He said that a Gazette notification will be issued today allowing the deposits of foreign nationals and Sri Lankans living in foreign countries in a special account in Sri Lanka, relaxing taxations and regulations by providing benefits for them. Accordingly, he said that the interest rates on the NRFC accounts will be increased by 2% extended by the government, and the deposits should be retained in the accounts for a minimum of 6 months.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ විශේෂිත ගිණුමක තැන්පත් කිරීම සඳහා ඉඩ ප්‍රස්ථා ලබා දෙන ගැසට් නිවේදනයක් අද දිනේදී නිකුත් වෙනවා. ඒ අනුව සාමාන්‍යයෙන් NRFC වගේ ගිණුම් තියෙනවා. ඒ ගිණුම් වල සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගෙවන පොලි අනුපාතිකයක් තිබෙනවා වාණිජ්‍ය බැංකුව අනිකුත් මූල්‍ය ආයතන විසින්. ඒ පොලි අනුපාතිකයට අතිරේකව රජය විසින් 102ක පොලි අනුපාතයක් ඒ ගිණුමට බැර කරන අතර අවම වශයෙන් මේ තැන්පත් මාස 6ක කාලයක්වත් ඒ ගිණුමේ රඳවා තබා ගැනීම අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. අර්බුදකාරී වාතාවරණය තුල
අපහසුතාවට පත්වී සිටින ශ්‍රී ලාංකීය ජනතාවට සහන සලසන්නට
The university system in the country has also extended this support to carry out researches related to coronavirus. Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Ramesh Patirana said that several systematic and methodological programs have been carried out to provide relief measures for the affected people amounting to up to 5.4 million. He said that the government has also directed the attention on those who engage in self-employment and provide the necessary reliefs. Meanwhile, he said that the government has taken measures to repatriate 33 Sri Lankans stranded in foreign airports. He said that the relevant cabinet paper was presented by Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and the approval of the cabinet has been granted for this initiative. He requested the general public to extend their support in the next 2 to 3 weeks continuously to eradicate the coronavirus from the country. Chairman of the Tea Traders Association, Jayanta Karunaratne, says a revenue of more than 2,700 million rupees was earned from the recently held tea auction. The revenue of the Colombo tea auction has increased with the global spread of the coronavirus. The Colombo tea auction was conducted recently on a digital platform for the first time in history. All suppliers and dealers as well as other sectors have joined the auction through the digital platform. Exporting processes of many black tea exporting countries in the world, major competitors in the international market, have been hindered, limited or suspended due to the rapid spread of the coronavirus. The Tea Traders Association has said that the renowned Ceylon tea brand has achieved great heights amid the prevailing global circumstances. The Ceylon black tea prices have continued to increase, with many identifying the Sri Lankan black tea as a medicine which strengthens the immune system in combating the coronavirus. Chairman of the Tea Traders Association, Jayanta Karunaratne, said that obtaining a higher rate of Ceylon tea would assist in strengthening the country's economy.
We have very successfully concluded e-auction this week. It was almost 4 million kilos was sold, and all the buyers operated from their offices or residences. Auction was finished yesterday, and the people are all happy that we concluded it, and also the prices moved up. So that was one reason, because people were little very uncertain whether they will get the correct prices, but the prices are much more than we expected.
The police have taken steps to direct individuals to quarantine centres for 14 days process after taking them into custody for violating the curfew orders and travelling between districts. DIG Ajit Rohana said that the measure will be commenced from tomorrow. Meanwhile, the curfew, which was lifted at 6 a.m. today in the remaining districts apart from these 6 districts, was reimposed at 4 in the evening. The curfew imposed in districts of Colombo, Gampaha, Kaluthara, Puttalam, Kandy and Jaffna, identified as high-risk zones, will continue until further notice. The curfew in the remaining districts was lifted at 6 a.m. today and was reimposed at 4 p.m. The curfew imposed at 4 p.m. today will be in effect until 6 a.m. on the 14th of April. The sole purpose of these measures undertaken by the government is to ensure the well-being of the people in the country at this very critical situation. Hence, the government requests the people to bear the inconveniences caused by as a result of the enforced curfew in responsible manner. Although the government urges to limit the traditions and associations during upcoming New Year seasons only within the respective family members. The movement between all districts has been completely prohibited except for the purpose of providing essential services. Providing the curfew hours, the government has implemented a mechanism to continuously support essential commodities, enabling the public to carry out the purchasing of these activities while at home. Those who engage in paddy farming and cultivation of the small tea holding and export crops in any district are permitted to carry out their respective activities. DIG Ajit Rohana said that the reports have been indicated that certain groups have already made plans to travel between provinces and districts, especially from the Western Province, to reach their villages for the upcoming New Year holidays using the curfew pass issued for essential services. He said that this facility has been granted to travel in between workplaces to provide essential services and to be returned to their respective residences. He said that the stern legal action will be taken against such violators.
තමන්ගේ නිවසේ හෝ නැවතී සිටින ස්ථානයේ සිට රාජකාරී ස්ථානයටත් රාජකාරී ස්ථානයේ සිට තමන් යම් අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවාවක යෙදෙන්නේ නම් එම සේවාවත් සඳහා පමණක් මෙම හැඳුනුම්පත් භාවිතා කිරීමට අවස්ථාව සලසා දී තිබෙන්නේ. එය අවභාවිතා කරමින් කටයුතු කළොත් ඉතා දැඩිව නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The villages declared as isolated areas in the district of Colombo, Kaluthara and Kandy will remain in the same category and no person will be permitted to enter or leave from these areas until further notice. Meanwhile, the curfew enforced in Ratnapura and Palmadulla will continue until further notice. Accordingly, the movement across these areas have been completely prohibited. Health Services Director of Sabaragama Province, Kapila Kannangara, said that the first 3 COVID-19 patients identified from Ratnapura district have been directed to IDH, while another 2 patients were detected yesterday. He said that accordingly the curfew has imposed in Palmadulla Police Division due to this issue. Tharakalum village in Mana district is currently under the observation of police and public health officials. Sri Lanka Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said that an infected patient was identified from Puttalam district in the 2 days back. He said that the infected person has attended a funeral on 18th of March, exposing himself over many people. Accordingly, he said that the Akkarepattu area in Ampara district has been declared as an isolated area. Security forces have taken steps to limit the movement of all vehicles entering the Akkarepattu area in Ampara district with roadblocks after reporting a COVID-19 patient from the area.
900කට අධික සංඛ්‍යාවක් ජීවත් වෙනවා සමාජිකයන් 4600කට අධික සංඛ්‍යාවක් ජීවත් වෙනු ලබනවා එම නිසාම රජයේ විසින් මේ තාරාවි කුලම් කියන නම ග්‍රාමය හුදකලා ග්‍රාමයක් හැටියට ඊයේ සවස් භාගයේදී නම් කරනු ලැබුවා.
The curfew enforced in 19 districts in the country was lifted for 10 hours today. Many had arrived to shop during the curfew lifted period to purchase essential goods as the dawn of the new year is on coming Monday, the 13th of April. The majority of people followed the instructions given by health authorities, while some had failed to adhere these instructions. Officers of the Measurement Units, Standards and Services Department of the Ministry of Internal Trade, Food Security and Consumer Welfare took steps to investigate whether certain traders are using corrupted scaling equipments during the curfew lifted period. Meanwhile, the government took steps to open all pharmacies in the curfew-enforced districts today. The government has enforced the island-wide curfew with the objective to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Accordingly, 19,441 individuals have been taken into custody for violating curfew orders during the period from 6 p.m. on March 20th until 6 a.m. today. A total of 5,082 vehicles have been also taken into police custody during this period. According to a statement issued by the police headquarters, 1,724 individuals and 496 vehicles have been taken into custody during the 24-hour period from 6 a.m. yesterday till 6 a.m. today. The majority of the curfew violators have been arrested from Anuradhapura, Gampaha, Puttalam, Polonnaru and Chilla police divisions. Further operations have been initiated by security forces to identify curfew violators in areas declared as high-risk zones. Also, police have said that stern legal actions will be taken against persons who publish false information using social media platforms. Well, that's it for your Primetime News Bulletin on Channel I. Do join us tomorrow for the very latest. Till then, have a good night.
And stay safe.